Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my ChinWag on the Vobe Show. I'm Richard Vobes. It's 21st of July 2022 and another warm, another warm day down here in jolly old Sussex. I gather that there's been some rain in parts of the country. I can tell you down on the coast in Worthing, where I'm based, we've not had any. It would be nice just to clear the air and help water the plants and sort out people's gardens and all of that. That would be very useful. However, today I want to talk about the Great Getaway. The schools are breaking up this week. Some of them have already broken up. Some are in the process of. And when I say schools, I don't actually mean the buildings themselves are breaking up, thanks to the heat or anything like that. No, I don't mean the schools themselves. The infrastructure is melting thanks to climate change. No, I just mean the kids are breaking up. And, of course, the summer holidays are on their way. And kids presumably have been looking forward to this. I remember as a kid, the summer holidays when I was young seemed to go on forever, and the sunshine seemed to be there. We did go away a few times. We went in caravans. My dad had an old Morris Traveller. I remember the number plate, NRX 541. Beautiful old. That's the Morris Minor, but with the estate version with the wooden bit, like a timber-framed house on the back of a car. Beautiful things. You don't really see so much of that type of thing in modern cars these days, which is a shame. It's had a certain character. But then all those cars back in the 60s and 70s and probably before had character. They looked beautiful. They had lovely interiors. Something has happened to cars. They're very efficient. They don't break down quite as much. But they're quite bland, really. Yes, they've got electric windows, and you no longer need a starting handle to start them up. My Morris Traveller, my dad's Morris Traveller, and then when I was 18, 19, I bought a Morris Traveller. Absolutely loved it. And that had a starting handle. It was only 1,000, whatever it is, HP source. But it would tow a Sprite caravan, and very slowly we would meander down to Studland Bay in Dorset and have various holidays in the caravan, and it was absolutely delightful. I loved it. So here we go. We've got the beginning of the summer holidays, and my question is, are you going away? Are you one of these people who will be going abroad or staying in this country? What will you be doing? I'd be very interested to know in the comments, what is it about going abroad that appeals? In the last few years, going abroad has been more complicated thanks to the pandemic that we've had and the various jab situation that we've had to endure, that people couldn't go abroad unless they're jabbed. I don't know what the situation is now. Maybe somebody could just let me know. I have no real wish to go abroad. I have been abroad. It's not that I just don't want to go full stop, but I'm so interested in England and this country that until I've seen all there is to see, which at the moment is not so easy running this and having a wonderful girlfriend, a lovely Julia, who has children, for me just to take off and explore all of England as much as I would like. And of course the last 2 years we had the pandemic, we were locked down, we were unable to. But until I can explore this wonderful country and look at the terrific things that this country offers, not just England, but all of Britain. There's lots of things to look at. I don't feel compelled to go abroad. The other thing about going abroad for me is I can't just sit on a beach and soak up the sun. My previous girlfriend, Harriet, used to love going abroad and just sitting on the beach and soaking up the sun reading. She used to work in the corporate sector, so I dare say with the stresses and all of that she had, she probably needed just to take time out, go off into a fantasy world in her books and enjoy the sunshine on her body. And I've got no qualms that people should be able to do that. Absolutely right. But I'm not like that. I do like to have a poke about and explore and look at the history. And for me, though, going abroad and looking at the history, unless I actually understand what the history is, none of it makes much sense. It just leaves me cold. It's the same as going into a museum, really. If I go to a museum and you're presented with all these flint axes and then you're presented with, I don't know, some farm equipment and various Roman remains. After a while, unless I can think, hang on a minute, how does that relate to the area and to humanity? rather than just be a series of objects. And then I find my interest starts to wane, which is why, having read up quite a bit, and not enough, on this wonderful country that I live in, England, when I travel around, you start to see things and you go, that archway, oh yes, horses would have come in here. That looks like an old coaching inn. That's a trough that's obviously been moved. It must have been over there. There's the market cross. Look at that. That's crumbled. I wonder when that came. And you can look things up, and it makes so much more sense for me, for an explorer, somebody who's interested in the history. But everybody's different, and that's good. So what are you going to do? Are you aiming to get away? And if you are, excuse me, if you are aiming to get away, are you prepared for the traffic? It strikes me that, and I see this all the time, when parents have children and they get on the road, by the time they've got things organised, they get on the road about 10 o'clock, 10:30. Well, everybody's done that. The best time to travel is probably something like between 5 and 6 in the morning, especially in the summer holidays when there's less people travelling to work and there's less people going to school, or no people going to school, and the roads are going to be a lot clearer. So getting yourself organised is, in my opinion, a jolly good idea. Going out sort of by 10:30, you're just going to sit in a lot of traffic. The heat of the day is going to rise up. And with the amount of people that we have in this country at the moment, which I can't see is going to be reduced, there are going to be huge numbers of people on the roads, in their cars, sitting there. So there's going to be a load of hold-ups. And it does seem to me that the councils up and down the land haven't really coordinated all the work that they need to do. And they do seem to be able to put the cones up all over the place. And then you see, well, there's nobody actually here. There's all these cones who have been filtered into one lane, and it's a nightmare. When I went to America some years ago now, probably 15 years ago, it's amazing to think that, 2000, when was it? It may not have been quite so long ago, but anyway, 2006 and then 2007, I learnt that in Chicago, and I don't know if this is true for the rest of the states, that they do all their roadworks in May, or at least they do most of them, so that they do all the disruptions in 1 month. And if you want to put in a new pipeline or this, that and the other, then you've got to wait till the next May if you miss the slot. It does mean, and it seems such a sensible thing, that the rest of the year the roads aren't being dug up. Now, I don't know if that's still the case or whether that was just something I was told and not actually true, but we went over in May and we did see pretty much many of the roads dug up, and that was the explanation I was given. Anyway, if you are going to stay in this country, and I think a lot of people are, Britain has some wonderful places now here, but are you going to be going to the same old places, you know, down to have a look at Stonehenge, go into the Cotswolds, up to the Lake District, all the Peak District, all the usual suspects, which are, of course, the outstanding areas of natural beauty. But there are plenty of other places that are off the beaten track, and I would certainly advise people having a look. Walking is, in my opinion, a fantastic way to relax. You can go at your own pace, you can take a backpack, you can take sandwiches, you can take a drink, you can stop off. Britain has some fantastic footpaths. You are pretty much your own man or woman, and you can just go wherever you like, and it's fantastic. And if you choose many of the little simple networks, then you can have a fantastic time and go in big loops or small loops and do whatever you like. So I would definitely recommend getting onto the footpaths, and you'll find most people don't go on them. Don't go, if I was you, on the big trails like the South Downs Way, particularly in the summer, because everybody will be on that, and it'll be like Clapham Junction or Spaghetti Junction, where the world and his brother has decided to come to the same old place. You want to get away where there's nobody, and you just take in the landscape and enjoy what nature we still have in this country. So that's what I would do. The Bald Explorer has tons of videos on my sister channel, which you're welcome to have a look, particularly in the Sussex area if you happen to be there. One of the things that I would very much love to do, and I don't know how realistic this is going to be, but I would like to farm More and more I'm reading about farming, particularly in the old-fashioned way, and I would like a smallish farm, perhaps 25 acres, something like that. And I would love to have a small mixed farm so that I could provide the community that I was close to some local produce. Now, this, as I say, might be pie in the sky, and I'm sure people are already writing their comments to say, oh, Richard, that is just nostalgic, you'll never be able to do it, and all the rest of it. And of course, in order to buy land, just land alone, you need to have a lot of money. And I don't. So it probably won't happen unless, I don't know, this channel blows up, or if I win the lottery, which isn't likely to happen because I don't do it. So there you go. But if I was a farmer, one of the things I'd love to do would be to give people the farming experience, invite people to stay on the farm and help out, help milk the cows, learn how to milk by hand, how to tend to sheep, become a shepherd. I would like to teach, once I'd learnt these skills myself, or have the professionals who know how to do these things, so that we can, even in a tiny way, bring back some of those old traditions of farming and experience firsthand what it was like to make food in this modern day compared to the food that you get at the supermarket. And then in the evenings, have a feast outside, if it's a lovely day, in the farmyard on big trestle tables, and enjoy the fun. I think this is called woofing. I think these people who do this are called woofers. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's something like willing volunteers on a farm or something. And people go all over the world to experience what farming is really like. And if I could have a old traditional farm, it would be fantastic, with timber frame barns, cow sheds, hay ricks, and all of that. That's what I would be doing and offering to people during the summer holidays. I think it would be absolutely magic. So I'm interested, are you going to stay in this country, or are you going abroad, and why? What is it that appeals, apart from the sunshine? After all, we've had the hottest day, apparently, and of course now I'm being told that's down to global warming, although I was expecting that this hot 40-something degrees centigrade was going to last for weeks and weeks and weeks, which would convince me that there was global warming. But because it was just a spike on one day, it doesn't. And I'm afraid the fires that we've seen up and down the country, and particularly in London, haven't convinced me further. It's almost as if somebody's deliberately trying to push the agenda. But that's for another story. So what is it, the appeal to go to another country? Do let me know in the comments. The big getaway is about to start. Where are you going? I'd love to know. Now, let's have a quick look at some of the comments. I haven't read these, I'm afraid to say. I've been a bit busy the last day or so. So ENG says, and in response to too many people shouting episode, almost got my shorts out, but will save them for Spain. Going to Spain. Well, you need to build up your tan. Build up the tan on your legs so that when you go to Spain, it's not too much of a shock, dear boy. Jane Smith says the health system in this country is broken. Well, I would agree with you there. The government have had their heads in the sand for years about the shortage of GPs and nurses. We were talking about that yesterday. There's no quick fix either. GPs take years to train. It's a ticking time bomb. That's why we were put into lockdown, because the NHS could not cope with the extra workload. Well, I don't know how true that is, really, because if you think the extra workload was really turning people away. My son worked at A&E during the COVID outbreak, and basically what they were saying is, if you've got COVID, go home. Only come in if you have extreme symptoms, i.e. you can't breathe. If you're having, because it being a lung infection on the, what do they call it? There's something, the air tract. I forget what it is. So they were just turning people away, which is very odd, because if you think about most illnesses, you go to see the doctor, like take cancer, for example, you want to hit it as soon as you can, don't you? You want to start working on your return to health as quickly as you can. If you see a lump, you've got a lump, you suspect there's one there, you want to be working on it immediately. You don't wait until people are virtually dying or can't breathe before you'll see them. But that's what was going on during the COVID period. I was talking about this in the Vogue show at the time. People didn't like me mentioning this, but it was what was happening. My son, as I say, worked there, and he was telling me we would just, if they had that, they were told to go home. Nobody went to see them. They weren't given any advice on what things they could do. We were told that vitamin D was useless. Things like ivermectin and the what's the name, chlorhexa, whatever it was, these were all discounted as being bad treatments, and we were all told that we had to wait for a vaccine, which turns out wasn't actually a vaccine. Turns out that it doesn't stop it, the super promise. So I'm not sure that people were just sent away because of the extra workload. I just think that they were a bit cowardly, to be honest with you, on that. But you're welcome to disagree. Russell Ryan says the climate change threat was identified by big oil decades ago. Some countries deny it and some do not. You're better off researching the issue and not following social media alone. The coastline usually has a cooling effect, so no wonder you didn't see a problem there. Look at the fires in Australia and the US and mainland Europe to get more knowledge on the topic. He goes on. It's interesting you mention Australia. I used to have a friend in about 2005, 2006, that I used to correspond with a chap in Australia. And he was telling me back then about the fires that would come along. He was a volunteer, what do you call it? He went up the towers, lookout, and he would do stints. Because in Australia, for, I think, forever, they have bushfires. And they are a worry, but they have a system in which they monitor them. People do set fire on purpose and accidentally to the fires, or the bush rather, to create fires in Australia. And he used to tell me how many of these were basically kids, bored, out there, start a fire, not really understanding the relevance of what will happen. And of course, we've seen some massive fires over there in recent times. Is it down to global warming? I don't know. Is that not just a very convenient thing? It does seem very convenient to me that everything now, we have one hot day and it's like, well, there you go, mate, that's proof. As I say, if the 40 plus degrees was for weeks and weeks and weeks, yes, I would agree that there must be some global warming. But I'm not saying we're back to normal temperatures today. It's as if it didn't happen. So I'm just not convinced. Justine Jones says, I think what the media was saying regarding the hottest day was that it was the hottest day in this country since official records began. Yes, and I think that is true. But what does that prove? If you start making records of things yesterday, and you have a warm day today, you're going to have a day that is the hottest day since records began. But if you look at records, well, you can't look at records that have not been recorded. So I was asked the question, can I point? I think the person's deleted the comment because I haven't seen it since. He said, can you point to a day in British history where it was the same temperature as 41 degrees? And I thought to myself, well, hang on a minute. This is a flawed question because you can only point to a date that's been recorded. But that, I think it was something like 1700s, wasn't it, when we started to record them? And it's debatable how accurate all that information is. And also it's debatable about how accurate the thermometers are when you put them by Heathrow or Gatwick Airport in hot places. And apparently they're all in hot places. I don't know. So the world was at one point a great big fireball. And I suppose what I was saying, in a somewhat cheeky way, is yes, there've been hotter days. Perhaps humans weren't around then, but there have been hotter days, and the planet does fluctuate. I don't know that just having to sort of pin everything on when records began, it really tells us anything. As I say, if this 40 plus degrees was a prolonged period rather than just a simple spike, then I would believe it. Justine goes on to say, I enjoy the Bald Explorer, but not sure I enjoy this new carnation of shock horror doom that you're currently trying out. Am I really doing shock horror doom? I mean, compared to the mainstream media, I'm just trying to work out what's going on in the world. But of course, Justine, you don't have to watch. I mean, I appreciate that you do and that you like the Bald Explorer, but this is a different thing. I'm trying it out, as you so rightly say. I found that when I launched the Vogue Show podcast in 2005, it took about, well, probably 2 years to really understand what the format was and how I was doing it. It went through a number of changes. So for me, this ChinWag idea is very early days, and it may not be agreeable to anybody. And I can't get it right straight off. It's an experiment. I'm hoping that people enjoy a bit of a challenge, a bit of a ChinWag. I'm not saying that I'm an expert. I'm not trying to bring shock, horror, and doom, but I'm trying to make sense of the world in my own common sense, which clearly people disagree with. And that's absolutely fine. We are supposed to disagree with each other. Nobody wants a dictatorship on the mainstream media or on YouTube. So, but if it's offensive or you just find it awkward, don't feel you have to watch it. She says, are you trying to raise your clicks with controversial views and cherry-picking only the facts that fit your narrative? Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm not doing this just for fun. So I am trying to, as you say, raise my clicks. I'm trying to earn a living on YouTube as a performer. And I've done walks on the Bald Explorer and got to a certain level and found that had plateaued. Now doing other things on the Bald Explorer, as you know, trying out things. This is a business. And like most businesses, you try things out. So consider the ChinWag a bit of research and development. I'm testing it out. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it's horrible. Maybe it's offensive. Maybe I am the worst person at it. I hold my hands up and say I probably am. But I'm learning what I do. But I don't just do this for fun. You might think I'm a bit egotistical, and you need a bit of ego to sit in front of the camera and spout a load of rubbish. But I'm trying to engage people so that you can disagree with me. Now, as far as am I cherry picking only the facts that fit your narrative, I think we all have a narrative, don't we? We all have an understanding of the world. My narrative, which I find that sounds like a very corporate word, my narrative. My worldview, if you like, was formed in the 70s. I was born in the 60s. I grew up, my formative years were really in the 70s. I got an understanding of what life was about then. I went through life, of course, got married, brought up children, and saw the world change. I've looked after my parents, who one was an alcoholic and one had dementia, and they've both died. But it was interesting looking after them at certain points and engaging with them and hearing their worldview, and all of that has pictured my worldview on what I believe and what I do. This is a biased show because it's about me. I'm not the BBC. I'm not trying to be unbiased. I'm telling you what I think. So yes, I'm cherry picking those things that fit my narrative. Why would I try and fit the things in? For example, I could say, it's very difficult to actually understand or define what a woman is. It's very difficult because, your gender is fluid. I don't believe any of that rubbish. A woman, quite clearly, is an adult female human. And a man is an adult male human. End of story. That's what I believe, and nobody is going to change my view. And I'm free at the moment to be able to express that view. And that's what I feel this show is about. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to watch. But, enjoy the Bald Explorer, though. I hope I've put that over clearly and not in a condescending way. But I mean, yeah, it's a business, and I've got my worldview, as indeed you have, I'm sure. Nigel Lacey says, when it's 40 degrees in December, then I might buy into the man-made climate change claptrap. Until then, I won't. Well, there's a man after my heart. Nigel, I totally agree with you. When we have those sort of temperatures, yes, I think they're absolutely right. Many more comments out there, but I probably bent your ear too long. Thank you for watching. Do let me know. Are you going abroad? Are you staying in this country? What are you going to do? Taking the family? Going on your own? Having a quiet one? Or is it going to be absolute hell and you're not looking forward to it? Do get in touch, and I'll talk to you next time.